Hello guys and welcome to Guild Ball TV, here with your host GBHL Jamie, and today I'm going to do a Meet the Brewers episode. So we're going to kick things off with Tapper, the captain there in front of you. So Tapper's card will be coming up on the right hand side of the screen, as will for all the characters. So Tapper, as you can see, he's move 4-7, so pretty slow guy on the jog, but when he's sprinting and charging can get a little bit faster. Attack 6, which is good for a captain. Kick 3-6, so can handle the ball. Defense 3 armor 1, which is a little bit on the weak side, but sort of not terrible. And influence, quite a weak stat for him, 3-4. So he generates 3 and can take 4, which means on first sight he doesn't do a lot on the pitch because he can only have 4 influence. Character traits, he's got tactical advice with scum, so he takes advice from a cat. So he's a drunk, obviously. So he gets +1/+1 inf, which means he generates 4 and can take 5, which is a little bit better. Getting up to that with a sort of captain standard of 4-6. He also has tough hide, which means that he will ignore the first point of damage from playbook results or character plays. So yeah, he is quite survivable, especially with 18 boxes. And now interestingly for a captain, he has a heroic play rather than a legendary. He has Old Jakes. This model may immediately allocate 2 influence between friendly guild models within 4 inches. So it is friendly guild models. And obviously the Brewers are probably one of the best, in my opinion, going pure guild. Now this means that, let's say he hits someone twice, generates momentum, he can give himself 2 influence to continue hitting, so effectively he's a 4-7 influence captain, which is pretty tasty. The use of Old Jakes can also be passed on to your other guild players, so let's say you've realised that you're going to need to do a bit more sort of dodging or damage, then you can put those 2 onto someone else that you hadn't originally put them on. And the playbook is looking pretty good as well. So on the first one we've got the Guild Ball symbol and 1 damage. So the Guild Ball symbol is mark target. Friendly models who declare a charge against the affected enemy model gain +2 to their charge distance and is 1 use only per turn. So quite a nice one for when sort of your team is generally quite slow, gets them into the fray just a little bit quicker. On the second column we've got 2 damage, which is good, and a momentous knockdown. So a knockdown on 2 hits from a non-big guy, fantastic at sort of counter-attacking. And also setting your other players up, which we'll come on to later. On 3 he's got a tackle and a momentous push. On 4 hits he's got 3 damage momentously, and on 5 hits commanding aura or a double push momentous. Now when you look at his tack, he's tack 6, he's only got a 5 long column, which is a theme we'll see throughout the Brewers, where he can wrap very easily. So he could very easily, let's say, do 3 momentous damage and wrap onto 1 damage, so for a total of 4. So he is very, very good. And obviously commanding aura, if you can get it sort of discounted from a hit rather than paying the 2. An attack made against an enemy model within this aura, which is 4 inches, gains +1 attack and +1 damage to playbook results. And obviously he benefits from his own commanding aura. So if on your first hit you can, on your charge, the ideal situation is commanding aura and a momentous knockdown. Then every attack then onwards you gain +1 attack and +1 damage at their reduced defense. That is Tapper, a fantastic captain. He can do a lot. He can kill sort of anybody he wants in 1 turn, I reckon. If you go onto the Guild Ball Informer YouTube channel and see their first bat rep, Brewers versus Fishermen, the Tapper in front of you here manages to take down Kraken, the almighty Kraken, in just 1 turn of combat. So that is Tapper done. Next up we might as well move on to the little mascot. Okie doke, so Scum, everybody's least favourite cat in the game. So Scum, looking at his stat line, moves 6'8", he is probably one of the fastest, if not the, on the Brewer team. We'll come on to some traits later on as well that make him a little bit faster. He's got tack 4, which is fantastic for a mascot. I think that's like level of princess. Kick 1-4 as his standard for mascots. Defense 5, armor 0, so pretty tricky to get hold of. He is a cat obviously, and sort of similar to Salt in that sense. And influence 1-3. So he generates the influence, but imagine that when he is within 4 inches of Tapper, he's generating 2 influence essentially. So he's a very important mascot to your team. Character traits, he's got Shadow Like, so at the start he makes a 2-inch dodge, so even when he's not sprinting he's still moving 8 inches because he Shadow Likes 2 and moves 6. Also really handy for getting him out of combat when you think you might be losing your mascot. And coupled with that, he's got unpredictable movement, so when someone ends their engagement ends them advance within his engagement zone, which is 1 inch, he gets to jump away 2 inches. So you only sort of your 2 inch melees and mallets can make a swing against him for the first hit of the turn. Also forgot to mention, Tapper's got a 2 inch melee, which is massively important, the fact that he can hit pretty much anyone he wants. Okay, we'll flip the card over, and we'll see Scum has a 3 long playbook. So attack 4 and a 3 long playbook. So again, likely to wrap, especially when charging. So the playbook, on 1 hit, you get 1 damage. On 2 hits, you can do 2 momentous damage or a momentous push. On 3 hits, a tackle or guild ball symbol, which is hamstring. Target enemy model suffers -4/-4 movement, which can be useful if you want to keep someone in place for the rest of your Brewers to catch up. Sorry, I have a thing of calling my Brewers Butchers and my Butchers Brewers. So yeah, Scum on the charge, getting 8 dice. Imagine you're charging into one of the big guys, defense 2, armor 1. From sort of 8 dice, if there's not many crowding out, you can expect 6 hits, which is 3, 3, and that's 4 momentous damage. And then if you stack that up with Commanding Aura, that becomes 6 momentous damage. And so the cat can kill a lot. But that's enough from the cat. 8 hitboxes, decently survivable with unpredictable movement, shadow-like, and defense 5 naturally. So cat is good. I think one of the best mascots in the game. Probably after marbles and coin, or sort of on a par with coin. And yeah, that is Scum. We'll next move on to Tapper's best friend, Hooper. And here he is himself, Hooper, the man who can smash people up. So Hooper, just like his captain, is movement 4-7 basic, so again slow on the jog but fast when he wants to get into fight. Attack 5, kick 2-6, so not a fantastic kicker but reasonably reliable. Defense 3, armor 1, and influence 2-3. So again, although he generates 2, he can only take a low amount of 3. So something we're seeing on this team is a low influence generation. Character traits, tough hide, again, big brawly Scot. He can take a hit and dish it out, and shove the boot in. So this model gains +1 damage to playbook damage results against models suffering the knocked down condition, which, as you'll find out as we go through with more players, the Brewers love to knock people down. So if you can set up someone knocked down for Hooper to go in, he will do some serious damage, especially if you've got Commanding Aura up, which is essentially +2 to damage results. And we'll have a look at his heroic play down there. Fantastic. True Grit, immediately remove all conditions from this model. So that's a good heroic play to begin with, because it's heroic and then you can heal 4 if you wanted for another point of momentum. But not only does he remove all conditions, he generates an additional +2 tack. So that's tack 7 basic for a heroic play for the cost of momentum. Again, imagine coupling that with Commanding Aura, he's tack 8 basic, and we'll flip his card over and see, lo and behold, a 5 long playbook. So again, very likely to wrap, especially when they're knocked over. Or knocked down, sorry. So going into the playbook, we've got 1 damage on 1, which can very easily double up to 2 or even 3. And a momentous push, so easy early book momentum generation. On 2 hits, a tackle or 2 damage. Again, that 2 can very quickly become 3 or 4. So lots of damage output there. The Guild Ball symbol, which is Smash Shins, which you very rarely see in game but can be devastating. -4/-4 to your kick. On 3 hits, a knockdown, momentous. So he can set himself up to get that +1, shove the boot in. On 4 hits, he gets a double momentous push. And on 5 hits, he gets 3 momentous damage, which, as we've said earlier, can very quickly go up to 4, 5, and in some cases even 6. So Hooper can really shove the boot in. And that is Mr. Hooper, with a 2 inch melee and 17 hitboxes. He is Tapper's best friend. And next out of the dugout, we've got Mr. Spigot, the football legend himself. So Spigot, a little bit different to the team. He's not as survivable in a brawl, but just as good, and you still want him up there. So on his card, we see he's moved 5'8", so he's a little bit faster than the rest of the team. He's attack 5, which is good. Kick 3-6, which is a respectable kick value. Defense 3, armor 1, which is the standard of what we've seen so far. And influence 2-4. So here we see a sort of return to the normality of Guild Ball players having that 2-4. Character traits. Football legend with a 4 inch aura. So while within this aura, friendly models gain +1/+1 kick. So that's essentially, he is a kick 4-7, which is very respectable. 4 dice to kick is fantastic. and obviously it buffs the rest of the players. So you're looking at Tapper now getting a 3-7 kick, which is good. Tapper's getting a 4-7 kick, Hooper's getting a 3-7, and the Cat getting a 2-5, which is not terrible. Spigot also has something called Flawed. So again, when someone's suffering the knockdown condition, he gains +2 tap, which takes him up to tack 7. And when we look over his playbook length, that's really a big bonus for Spigot. He's got a heroic play, as they all seem to do, which is Times Called, which is a 6-inch aura, which is a huge bubble. That's sort of, 12.5 inches of the pitch that can affect your own models. So friendly models starting their advance within this aura gain +2/+2 move. Now when we look back at the previous players, we'll see that heroic play can really get the Brewers moving, get them into combat. It means that Hooper and Tapper are moving 6-9, which is a much sort of greater asset rather than 4-7. He's got 16 hitboxes, so he's not easy to take down, but he's not got the tough hide trait like the other guys, so he can go down quite quickly to dedicated fire or focus fire. Look on the back, we see he's got a melee zone of 1 inch. So we've already got 2 2-inch melees and access to more in the guild itself and from the union, so I don't think we need many more 2-inch melees since it is a huge ability. His playbook has got 1 damage on 1 and a momentous tackle on 1 hit. So great way to retrieve the ball. On 2 hits we get 2 damage. Again, a trait we seem to be seeing in all the Brewers. Have all got 1 and 2 on 1 and 2. So nice at dealing damage, especially when you stack up the bonuses. And he's got 2 guild ball symbols, which is Balls Gone. So tackle the target enemy model. The ball token may then be placed within 4 inches in possession with a friendly model. So on 2 hits he can take the ball off someone and give it to a friendly model within 4 inches. It very rarely comes up, and I've only used it once with grayscales, but when it does happen, you can't really plan to set it up, it just sort of happens, but it will help you out no end to get the ball off of Spigot and onto someone else, rather than having to pass. On 3 hits we see a double momentous push and a knockdown, so again another model with easy access to knockdown to set up the rest of the players. And on 4 hits we see 3 momentous damage. Now, when we went back and we see that the models that are knocked down, he's getting tack 7 against. He can very likely hit that 3 and even wrap onto the 1. And again, if we imagine commanding auras up, that's tack 8. That will be 4 momentous damage. And you can even then look at wrapping onto the 2, which would be 3, so 7 damage. So these guys really can put out the hurt. And more importantly, they can also take the hit. A character play that we've not come across yet in the team is Tooled Up. So target friendly model gains +1 damage to character plays that cause damage and playbook damage results. Now, given all the bonuses we've seen so far, if you were to tool up Spigot himself, more importantly, if you were to tool up Hooper, and he's in commanding aura, and the model's knocked down, he's getting +3 damage. And that can be done every turn. So unlike the Butchers where they get the big +2, if you were to set him up correctly, Hooper can deal out a ton of damage every single turn. So that has been Mr. Spigot, and he can go back into the dugout now. Right, next up from the sidelines we've got one of my favourite Brewers, but one that we don't actually see too much of, but I reckon we'll see more as sort of Estes is released, who has been said to do more to help Stoker get in the fight. And it is Mr. Stoker. So Stoker, movement 4-6. He is horribly slow. He and Spigot are a great pairing together to sort of boost Stoker to get into the fight. But he is horrifically slow. He's tack 5, again good. Kick 3-6, so we're looking at a good kick value there. Defense 3, so standard for Brewers, and armor 2, so he can really take a beating and deny those hits. He's influence 1-4, so he is quite a greedy player in the fact that he can only generate 1, but he can take up to 4, so he takes him away from the team. Old Jakes is a perfect target for Stoker. Stoker is a perfect target for Old Jakes. We'll go down his character traits, which there are quite a few of. So we've got Tactical Advice with Stave. I've not come across Stave in this video yet, but you should know of him. So if he's within 4 inches, then Stoker becomes a 2-5 player. And 2-5 is huge, so obviously it makes him a little bit less greedy for that turn, but the fact you can put 5 influence on him, we'll see that Stoker, tooled up correctly, I think can be the most damaging player on sort of the Guild Ball pitch. He has Magical Brew, which means that once per turn during this model's activation, it can remove all conditions currently on it, which is a fantastic ability. It means that when you're playing against, say, engineers, you can activate him early in the turn, he'll drink his brew, get rid of the knockdown condition, go into combat, get some momentum, get the rest of the team up and get them in. It means when you're playing alchemists, he can run into calculus and mercury, take the burn and a poison. At the end of his activation, he'll just drink it down, drink the magical brew and clear all his conditions. So a great ability there, and it also helps him out as well a little bit. Burning Passion next. This model gains +1 damage against enemy models that are suffering the burning condition. So he can self-buff himself to get +1 damage when we see his heroic play and his character plays. So, character play, Human Ball of Fire. It is what it sounds like. Any model whose base is touched during this model's advance suffer the burning condition, and at the end of this model's activation, he suffers 4 damage. So Stoker is going to suffer 4 damage for doing his heroic play, but when he comes into base contact with anyone, he can set them on fire. Now when you think that for a point of momentum, you're then essentially setting up Burning Passion, he's pretty good. And with 18 boxes of health, he can take that 4 damage a few times. So we look onto the back of his book. Now, how I like to imagine Stoker is, imagine Commander Nora's up, and ideally you've got Tool up on him as well, so he's got +3 damage. And in an ideal world, the ideal situation, you've got 5 influence on him when he started next to Stave. So, character book, on 1 hit, he's got a 1-inch melee to start off with, which really hampers that 4-6 move. It is very, very prohibitive of where he can get to on the field to do damage. So, he's got on 1 hit, 1 damage, and a 2-inch momentous push. He is a fantastic counter-attacker, or ball carrier. Like if he has the ball, someone comes and goes in and tackles him, he can tackle on 2 hits, or if they don't manage to get the ball off him, he can push them away 2 inches, which will push most people out of their melee if they're hitting him. On 2 hits, he's got a tackle, so he can take the ball back easily. On 3 hits, he's got 2 damage, and again, a momentous knockdown. So again, sticking to that Brewer theme of knocking people down very easily. And on 4 hits, we've got 3 momentous damage. Now, if he's used his heroic, he's tooled up, he's in commanding aura, you're looking at attack 6 for commanding aura, and +3 to his damage results. That could be potentially 6 momentous damage. And if it was to ever happen and have him stacked up with 5 influence because he's started next to Stave, he could theoretically wrap very easily, do 5 times 6, 30, and if you wrap onto that 1, that becomes 4, 5 times 4 is 20, that's 50 damage potentially in 1 turn. I know it's an ideal situation, and if your opponent lets you get to that point, you probably deserve to win the game or kill whoever you're trying to hit, but just for raw damage output with a little bit of setup, he can do so much damage. He's got a bunch of character plays which can't be activated through his playbook, which is a little bit different to the rest of the Brewers we've seen so far. But he's got Molotov, target enemy model suffers the burning condition, cost 1, range 8, so he can set people on fire from afar if he weren't wanting to use his heroic play. He's got Burn the Floor, choose a terrain piece, all models within this terrain piece automatically suffer the burning condition. All models entering or ending their activation within the terrain piece suffer the burning condition. Now this one's a little bit iffy. We had it clarified by Jamie P that this, I'll show you on the camera, is rough ground. Rough ground is ground, it's not terrain in the current edition of the rules. So you can't unfortunately set things like that on fire, but what you can set on fire are terrain pieces such as obstacles and barriers. Which means that if you... The play's a little bit devalued by that because no one's going to enter or end their activation. You skirt around them and go for cover. So a little bit of a devalued character play, and I wouldn't really put the influence into it anyway. Flame Jet, which we see on Mercury as well, is influence 3, range 6, target enemy model suffers 3 damage and the burning condition. For 3 influence, there's better places that can go in the team. You'd rather hit them to generate momentum, and it's really sort of a last ditch effort to get a kill. But that is Mr. Stoker. I've babbled on about him probably the longest because I really, really like him and I hope to get more use out of him. I used him again in the Guild Ball Informal Bat Rep, so if you want to see him in use, because he's very rarely seems to get some play time, go check out that Bat Rep. I'll put a link in the description below. And that is Mr. Stoker. And next up we've got Stoker's friend, the Bombardier, Stave. So Stave is one of the big guys for the team. Movement 4-6, so quite slow, as we expect from big guys. He's tack 6, so nice high ability there. Kick 1-6, which we have come to expect from the big guys. They're not fantastic footballers, they're there to take a beating and to dish one out. Defense 2, armor 0, so a real sort of beat stick if people want to get momentum from them. And influence 1-3, which is again typical of the big guys. So sort of a vanilla big guy stat line there. Character traits: tough hide, enemy models that cause damage or playbook damage do -1, which is handy because he has got a ton of boxes and can really get in the thick of it and start dishing out the hurt. Or we'll see he's got a very, very sort of one-trick character play, but it's very, very powerful. We'll do his heroic play after we've discussed the character play. We'll do the character play first, why not? So he's got character play, very, very important. As you can see, what he's doing on the model, he's lobbing a barrel. It costs 2 and is range 6 inches and is in 3-inch AoE. So essentially you've got a 7.5-inch threat from the model. All models hit suffer a 4-inch push directly away from the centre of the AoE and a knockdown. That's 1 use per turn, but if you can sort of barrel someone towards your team, or barrel a ball holder away, or push sort of a commanding aura character away, push Ox the owner away from the fighting, you can really get a benefit from it. And the heroic play increases that lob barrel to lob explosive barrel. You also do 2 damage to all enemy models hit. So it does affect your own guys normally, but you won't ever get the damage on them. And it is a nice ability, but we very rarely see explosive brew, as there are more important things to be doing. He's got 23 hitboxes, which coupled with tough hide do make him a very sort of resilient character to damage, although the defense 2, armor 0 mean that players will be hitting those higher level points of damage against him. Best use is probably behind the guild, knocking people down from afar, setting the players up like Spigot and Hooper who want to do damage on players. Looking on the back of his playbook, his melee zone 1 inch, so big guys tend to be 1 inch. Big guys with 2-inch reach are very, very tough to escape from. He has got a 5-long playbook with tack 6, so again, access to wrapping is readily available. On 1 hit, he's got 1 damage and a momentous knockdown, so in the sort of Kraken Fangtooth-esque area there for very, very easy knockdowns. On 2 hits, we've got a 1-inch momentous push. On 3, 2 damage. On 4 hits, a 2-inch momentous push. On 5 hits, 3 momentous damage or a tackle. But let's face it, you're never going to be tackling with this guy. Typically what you'll see him doing once he wades into combat is knocking people down, since that's the easy option, generates momentum and allows the rest of the team to get their buffs. And we've got one last character play here, ramming speed. During this model's advance, any enemy model whose base is touched suffers a 2-inch push directly away. So it can be good for sort of spreading people out, getting to the target you want to knock down, or simply for pushing people away so that you're not getting crowding out bonuses or ganging up bonuses. And that is Stave the big man. He is a fantastic addition to the team. However, I think people are getting a bit wise to his barrel trick now, so he seems to be getting subbed out, and the defense 2 armor 0 is a real sort of juicy target for momentum generation. That's been Stave. We'll put him back and we shall bring in the other big guy, Mash. And here he is, Mash himself, the future captain's husband, and we're going to start seeing a bit of a different playstyle for the Brewers now. So previously we've seen guys who will beat up and kill the opponent going for takeouts. Mash is the opposite of that. He is going to go for goals while still doing the Brewer thing as well. So his playbook, he's moved 4-6. He's that big guy, slow movement, which is standard, seems to be, throughout the entire of the Brewers team, bar 2. Tack 5, so a little bit lower than Stave, but kick 3-6, so again, big kicking there. Defense 3, armor 1, and influence 2-3, with a melee zone of 2 inches. So we see, again, he's sort of that low influence player who can probably do a lot, but can't do as much as a regular guild player would do. His playbook is on the front, so we'll do that. We'll do it in the order since this is a new card. On 1 hit, 1 damage or a 1-inch momentous push. On 2 hits, a push dodge. Hooray! We finally see a dodge in the team. Besides Chudderlike, we've not yet seen a dodge in the Brewer team. Mash, Season 2 player, brings that in. Or he can do a momentous tackle. On 3 hits, we do 2 damage or momentous knockdown. Again, sticking with the Brewer theme, lots of knockdowns. And on 4 hits, we've got 3 damage and a tackle or 2 damage and a knockdown. So even when taking the ball, he can still be swinging his cricket bat around. Again, only a 4-on playbook with tack 5, so again there is access to that wrap, which could be 3 damage, tackle and a 1-inch push momentously to get them out of the way and then have a shot on goal. Character plays, he's got super shot, which this model gains +1, +2 kick, so it takes him to a 4-8 and puts him into that real striker level. Now if Spigot's nearby, that becomes a 5-9, which is then a very, very nice dice pool and range as well. He has Long Bomb as a character play. If this model is in possession of the ball token, choose a target spot and scatter the ball from that location using the standard scatter. So the standard scatter is the big circle one, which can go anywhere, but the range on that's 12 inches, so you can really push the ball to another part of the pitch where it wasn't previously, and with a lucky scatter it'll go even further away. I'm not sure if we said earlier, but he's melee zone 2 inches, so that's our 3rd in-guild melee zone of 2, and is really handy when we look at his character traits on the other side, which we'll flip it over now. So firstly, he's got Volley Threat, this new ability to Guild Ball when he was released. It's while within 8 inches of the enemy goal token, this model spends 1 less momentum to make a snapshot. So essentially, he makes a snapshot on 1 momentum, which means if someone passes the ball to him, he can make a snapshot off the pass, which, if you imagine it's Spigot doing it when he's nice and close, makes him, with super shot, 5-9, that's a reliable snapshot to go in the goal. He also has unpredictable movement, the idea that he can't see where he's going, as you can see on his helmet there, he's just spinning around, swinging his cricket bat. Can the opponent go where he's going, since he doesn't know either? So once per turn, he can, when someone ends their advance in his melee zone of 2 inches, he can make a 2-inch dodge, which means only a 2-inch melee person again can engage him in base contact and still hit him after he's dodged away. And his final trait, which hasn't really come into play at all yet because the model isn't released, is Protected Esters. While within 4 inches of the name model, Mash gains +1 armour and takes him to 3-2. So you can already see a little bit of synergy between Esters, Mash, Stoker, because Stoker's meant to be helped by Esters, having a 3-2, a 3-2, and whatever Esters brings to the table as well. So Mash, a real threat on goal, but can also dish out the damage and help out the rest of the team. He has 17 hitboxes, so again, nice and high, and a good player. I've not yet used him on the pitch, but I look forward to doing so, and he probably will make it into my roster at some point. That's Mash. We'll move on to the final model of the in-guild models, and that will be Friday. And finally, from the in-guild models, we have Friday. Now Friday is a little bit different to the rest of the team. She is the out-and-out striker, has some very, very good striking abilities, but can also dish out the damage as well, fit into the takeout theme. So let's have a look at her card. She's moved 6'8", which is pretty speedy. Tack 4, so a little bit low, but decent for a striker. Kick 3'8", so she's naturally getting kick 3'8". Defense 4, armor 1, which is a little bit higher than the rest of the guild we've seen, and influence 2-4, which means she can take a good amount of influence to do what she needs to do. Character traits, so we're going back to the old version of cards. We've got Shadow-like, so a 2-inch dodge at the start of her movement, which is fantastic. It means she can be in if she's engaged by someone, she can tackle the ball off, dodge away. Oh no, she can't. I've messed that order up. It means she can get out of engagement to then run off a goal, or she can move a little bit further. So her base move is 2 inches +6. She has defense support with Spigot, so while within 4 inches of the named character, which you'd ideally want her to be to get the benefits of Football Legend, she gains +1 defense, making her defense 5, armor 1. Now that is a real tough stat to crack through, even with 6 dice. And she's got Get Over Here Scum. During this model's activation, if Scum is within 10 inches of Friday, it can make a dodge up to its base move, which is 6 inches, towards this model, which is pretty handy for sort of grabbing someone over for crowding out bonuses. And her heroic play, which tends to get used once a game I find to finish the game off or to get an early goal, is I shoot better after a beer. This model gains +1/+2 kick, so essentially super shot, taking her up to 410, and gains +1 defence against parting blow attacks. So let's say she is engaged with someone, or Shadow likes into engagement with someone. She can attack reliably, get a tackle, which we'll come on to in a sec, activate her heroic play. If she's ideally within range of Spigot, when she leaves the engagement zone, she'll be 6-1, which is an almost guaranteed stopping of parting blow hits, and then she can run on goal and score. So her and Spigot are sort of that's the ideal sort of synergy there, that he will play times called to give her +2/+2 move, which means she has a threat on goal of essentially 6'8" up to 8'10", and a kick of 10 with a shoot better after a beer. So 22-inch threat on goal is nothing to be ignored. She's only got 12 hitboxes, but with that defense 5, armor 1, she has got a very good chance of not being taken out. Again, focus fire will do it, as with Spigot, but it's going to be investing a lot to do that. We'll flip her over, see her that sounds a bit rude. See her playbook. She's got a melee zone of 1, which is fine. You know, ideally 2 is just the best, but you can't have an abundance of 2. As we've seen with the Union, it's just too powerful to have lots of 2-inch melee. So, attack 4 with a 3 long playbook. On 1 hit, she can do 1 damage or momentous tackle. On 2 hits, a momentous push or 2 momentous damage. Or on 3 hits, the Guild Ball symbol, which is Dirty Knives. Target enemy model suffers -1 damage, -1 defense, 1 damage, and the poison condition. So she brings a little bit of conditions to the game, but can also set up that -1 defense for the other characters to really go and beat on. But something that people don't tend to expect is, because she's only got a 3 long playbook, if she charges into someone and Spigot were to say tool her up, you know, best option to charge is someone big like Boar, or even if you're playing against another Brewer team, Stave, so 2-0, you would be tack 8 from charging. You'd likely get sort of, you'd hope 7 or 8 hits is sort of what you'd expect. If she were tooled up with the best result, 8 hits, that's 9 sets of, or 3 sets of 3 momentous damage, so 9 momentous damage from a charge from Friday, and then she can continue to do it again. So she is a fantastic player who can really dish out the damage people don't expect from a striker, but is very, very good at putting the ball in the goal. And with that, we have done all the Brewers in Guild. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 options for Union. The sort of standout ones in my mind are Rage, Gutter and Fangtooth. They can all play for them. Fangtooth with his new Gluttonous Mass is an absolute nightmare, and he's got the knockdowns on 1, which is an absolute pain to deal with, especially when Gluttonous Mass is ignoring that first hit, your counter attacks knocks you down. Gutter, bringing the 2-inch melee again in, and Chain Grab to help with repositions to get the opponents closer to you. And everyone's favourite captain, Season 2 captain of the Union, we found out, Rage, who can just do a lot of damage and generate a lot of momentum for the team to activate their heroics. Other options are Harry the Hat Hallahan, which I like the idea of, but his playbook's just so very weak and lackluster that I don't think he'll make it into one of my teams. We've got Hemlock, who pre-errata was a very, very potent model in this force. Again, was another 2-inch melee, is now a 1-inch melee, but still pretty decent, dishing out sort of the poison condition, blind, to stop the opponent being so good on the attack. And sort of the one team I think he truly has a part in, Mr. Avarice and Greed, who will probably block off everybody else now. On 1 hit, he has singled out. Now, singled out means that your opponents will gain, you gain +2 tack against your opponents. Now, when we look back at the rest of the team, they all have tack that is higher than their playable length anyway, so anything that gives them additional tack means there's more chance of wrapping, which means more momentum, which means more damage, which means you can hit that sort of 6 takeouts or 4 and 1 more likely and simply. So I've got a little bit brain dead there. I think there is someone else who can play who I don't own yet, but I can't think off the top of my head. Oh well. Sorry, union member, I may or may not have forgotten. Comment below which one it is if I have forgotten someone. So as ever guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's about 20 minutes, I reckon, hopefully. If you have enjoyed it, be sure to hit like. If you don't, hit dislike. It helps me know what content you want to see on the Tuesdays slot. And as ever, be sure to comment, like, share and subscribe. Support your Hobbit hosts by clicking the links below. If you want to see more Guild Ball, head on over to Hotgates Gaming or go check my Patreon out and tell me you want to see it, and I shall, if you ask for it, I shall make it. And yeah, be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and I will see you next time on Guild Ball TV.